Hello, everyone, and welcome to the D4 podcast. Today, I have with me Ben Johnson, who is one of the biggest podcast creator in the chess industry. He has been doing this for more than 5 years now already, and 400 episodes are already out. You can check them out at perpetualchesspod.com.
Thank you. Hello to all, and hello to anyone listening. Happy to be here. To give new listeners and viewers the quick rundown. Yeah, I learned chess as a kid, like a lot of people, from a family friend, and loved it right away. But there were no tournaments. I didn't know about tournaments. I'm so old. I'm turning 45 in next week. Um,
45 is
so
still young.
Thank you. You're too kind. So I didn't know about the chess tournament world. I loved chess right away. I loved games generally. And I didn't discover tournament chess until 6 years later, until I was 12 years of age, which at the time was late, but not as late as it is now to start chess. But once I discovered tournament chess, I've loved it, and I played a lot as a teenager, and as an adult, I've been in and out of chess. But obviously very in the past 6 years or so. And the beauty of chess is it's always there for you. Whatever goes on in your life, things crop up and distract you, but then when you come back, chess can always embrace you, and you can dive into that world.
There's so many sports a child could get interested in at such a young age. So why did you choose chess? Was it what attracted you to chess, and why did you stick with it for so long?
It's the engagement of the brain. I was a decent student at school, but I wasn't like motivated by school. I wasn't self motivated to do better. I was the kind of, here in the US, I'm not sure how it works in India, but you get grades, and a B is like the second best grade. And if you're like reasonably intelligent and you don't try super hard, um, but you don't like totally ignore the teachers either, you often end up with a B. And that's the kind of student I was. I wasn't like top of the charts, but I wasn't terrible, but I wasn't like fired up. But chess, I found something where like an intellectual passion, and searching for knowledge for yourself could be its own reward. So I did enjoy sports as well. Here in the U.S., baseball is pretty popular, similar to cricket, and basketball. I also played a lot as a kid. I wasn't like amazing at it, but just for fun. Um, and I enjoyed those sports as well. But chess was like a way to use my brain that didn't feel like it was being forced upon me, the
Uh-huh.
way everything else can be.
So were there any other brain games that you were actually you tried playing?
That's an interesting question. I liked brain games. So I remember a family vacation where I learned this card game Bridge when I was
Uh-huh.
about 10. And I loved it. And then there's a game called Hearts with cards, and like fast. I actually was a professional poker player for many years.
Oh, nice.
So I do have a deep affinity with card games. Um, and as a kid, I liked, there's like Battleship, and I loved board games generally, but obviously chess is the best.
Uh-huh.
Actually, I have an interview coming out tomorrow with a guy who just wrote a book called Seven Games, this author named Oliver Roeder, and he talks about Go a lot. And Go, I have to admit, sounds really intriguing, but I never got into it. But I definitely had a predilection for games, but chess was the one that I learned how to play, and B, I eventually was exposed to the competitive world. And like a lot of chess players, I am a competitive person. So that was definitely that pulled me in further.
I've really heard that chess and poker actually go hand by hand. They have lots of things in common. And then, yeah, and in the beginning, about 5 or 10 years ago, they weren't related to each other. But now there was a festival, the Global Chess Festival, hosted by Judith Polgar, and one of the biggest sponsors was a poker company, and Jen Shahade is also the brand ambassador of a poker stars. I'm not sure about that, but
Yeah, Poker
yeah,
Stars.
yeah.
Yeah, Jen's an old friend of mine, and it's funny. Her brother Gregory, her older brother, is is 1 year younger than me, so he's been one of my best friends for decades. And we all got into poker together. And Greg and I both were pretty successful as poker players, but at the time, Jen was a few years younger and busy with chess stuff, obviously being US women's chess champion. So we would try to get her interested, and she wasn't interested. And it was only about 6 years later, when we were getting kind of tired of it, that Jen finally was like, "Oh, poker's pretty cool." And then obviously she's, in addition to being an amazing chess player and presenter, done poker commentary and had success playing poker. And now she's the most in the poker world of all of us. But in the early days, we couldn't convince Jen to try it.
Uh-huh. That sounds very interesting. Imagine all three of you actually playing in tournaments. That would be so,
Yeah,
yeah, that would be so fun to actually watch. And imagine you grow as much as in chess you have right now in poker, and it would be a different world altogether. Yeah.
yeah. I prefer chess, though. I have to say. I
Yeah.
mean, it was a fun.
Yeah,
Chess is a better game.
we're on a chess podcast. We love chess.
Yeah.
That's why we're here, yes. So you started playing chess, and then I know that you're a national master, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
which means USCF 2200. So maybe, I was FIDE, I've been over 2200. Now both my ratings are like 2100. So trying to get better again.
Yeah, so like why did you move towards making podcasts? Like what was the initial thing that got you into making a podcast?
Yeah, there's something. I mean, first of all, I love chess, so that helped. But podcasts feel like my native app. Like if I'm, I enjoy reading stuff on Twitter, and when someone posts a video clip, to me, it's like sensory overload. Like I'm just not a big video person. I love books, and I love being able to just listen to words and sort of picture them in my head. And obviously, podcasts are quite convenient if you like to listen to them while you're exercising or walking around or driving. And at the time I started the podcast, I was doing a lot of driving. I was running after school chess programs where I lived at the time in Pittsburgh. And obviously loving chess, I was looking for chess podcasts, and there just wasn't much out there. So and I honestly, I'm a decent chess player, but I felt like it should be like a grandmaster doing it. But there was just nothing there. And eventually I just decided, well, I know some pretty well-known chess players. Like I enjoy podcasts. Like let me try this. And I stuck with it, and eventually it found an audience.
Uh-huh. So you have done so many podcasts, like above 400 podcasts till now. So is there like one podcast that was like your most favorite ever, and you were so excited to do it that you you have been planning for that podcast for such a long time or something?
Well, I got to mention too. I mean, one, you know, you being from India, I got to give a shout out to Viswanathan Anand, the legendary
Uh-huh.
former world champion. I can't believe I got to interview him. So that was definitely one of the most surreal moments. But in terms of my actual just favorite, and sometimes, I have gotten this question before and I always screw it up somehow, but I'm going to get it right and set the record straight. I don't mind admitting that my favorite is my interview with Grandmaster Peter Hein Nielsen, the head trainer of Magnus
Magnus, yeah.
Carlsen. And the reason that I like that one is we kind of did a different format. He wanted to do an oral history of uh, being on Team Anand, on Anand's prep team during a crucial few days in his match with Boris Gelfand. So usually my interviews are like these sort of wide ranging interviews where we talk a little bit of chess improvement, a little bit of life background, a little bit of favorite books. And you might say it's like, here in the US, you would say an inch wide and sorry, an inch deep and a mile wide. Like you talk about, those are American metrics, but you talk about a lot of topics, but not in huge depth. But this was like, we're going to talk about, three of the most intense days of my life, especially of my chess career. And I'm going to give you every detail. And of course, Grandmaster Ganguly, I believe, was on that team, if memory serves. And so just talking about what it was like to prepare for a world championship at such a tense moment. I was so honored that he offered to do that. And I was really happy with how it turned out. And it's the sort of thing, like I do love doing my more general background interviews, but that was one that I felt like stood apart in terms of what it offered.
Uh-huh. So what if I ask you about your journey? And what do you think? Is there any moment in life till now that you actually thought was a moment that taught you a lot? So
Hmm.
basically, yeah. some ups and downs in life. So was there like one moment that actually gave you a lesson or something?
Yeah, I'd have to think about that. I mean, I've mentioned before, so I graduated university and then I worked in kind of I worked in the field of law. I was thinking about going to law school. Um, so kind of very respected profession, obviously, and I was, reasonably well educated, but I just didn't like I saw a lot of unhappy lawyers in my time working at a law firm. So I ended up getting into chess. I loved teaching chess for a few years, but then I started to make even more money doing poker on the side. So then I ended up playing poker for 7 years. But anyway, after I played poker, I ended up trying to trade stocks for 5 years. And I, excuse me, I had some money saved up from my success at poker, and like that money was dwindling. So anyway, I ended up just not making money. And, I got married, I had kids, and suddenly I have like two kids, and I'm, used to be quite successful, and now I'm making less money. So this failure of trying a difficult thing and having it not work was not like a singular moment. It was more like a process. It's like if
Uh-huh.
someone if a loved one dies, you kind of have to go through phases of grief. So I had to come to terms with the fact that I tried this difficult thing. I'm not good enough. It's too hard. And I need to pick myself up and find a new career path. And it was a bitter pill because I tried really hard and I worked really hard. It wasn't like I was slacking when I was doing it. I felt like I had a good approach, but I felt like it helped inform to the extent I've had success with chess content and the podcast. It was part of the reason, I think, was because I'd when I was working in markets, I was looking for, you're looking for an edge, basically. You're looking to do something, you're looking to find something that other people haven't found that you can exploit. And in the chess marketplace at the time, there were no chess podcasts. And I knew that I knew chess fans love chess. They can't get
Yeah.
enough of it. They want to watch chess videos when they're home or they want to play, but when they can't be at home or play, they still want chess content. So after that period of failure, I felt like at least all the books I'd read and all the life experience I'd gained informed my perspective and helped me to offer something to the world that now chess podcasting is pretty much a full-time job for me. And like professionally, I've basically never been happier. So
Yeah, so I wanted to ask you another thing. So when you started, how was the success? Was it like, did you get like instant success, that which is I suppose many things don't get in instant success. So like how many episodes did you have to do to actually be able to sustain by doing a podcast, or you started to get like attention for the
yeah, I mean, it's funny. The attention came before any sort of financial. I mean, it wasn't even success. It was like I didn't, it was only costing me money for at least 6 months. I mean, I was paying a producer, and obviously there's an opportunity cost associated with any time you put into it. So it wasn't like super expensive, but I was making $0. But I mean, the my first episode I think got like 800 people listening. Um, my first interview was with Greg Shahade, Jen's brother, who's reasonably well known in the chess world. And my second was with Grandmaster Jan Gustafsson, who, of course, is quite well known in the chess world and who I've known a long time. So it helped that I was interviewing people who had a bit of an audience. So, and then, probably 6 months later, it might have been 2,000 people. I don't know. So and again, I was making zero money, but I felt like at least people are listening. So it was years where if you just looked at it from a financial perspective, I shouldn't have been doing it, but I loved doing it and people were listening. So you know, once I sort of survived those first few months, I was pretty committed to it.
it was basically a risk that you took. Actually, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, but yeah, I guess, but I felt like the upside was much greater than the downside. And generally, I encourage people to to adopt that mindset if they're thinking about creating content. But the beginning days are the hardest. I mean, and sometimes, sometimes you spend sometimes you never gain traction. There does come a point where um, one has to come to terms with that. But if you look at someone like Gothamchess, Levy Rosman, I mean, I interviewed him twice. Once was in 2020, I believe, um, and he was still doing chess programs. If you listen to our interview, a lot of it is about like the chess programs. And he was like, he was making a good living as a chess teacher, and he probably had about 10,000 YouTube subs. So he wasn't like suffering or anything, but he was just another content creator. And then in the subsequent year, obviously we all know what happened with Gotham Chess. I mean, now he's got like 1.3 million YouTube subscribers or
Yeah.
something. So there is something to be said for just sticking with it. I mean, we're not all going to be Gotham Chess, but I mean, it is heartening because he was Twitch streaming with no one watching for years, and eventually broke through.
Yeah, he's the number one most subscribed YouTube channel now. He just surpassed a Gadmater, and he also passed Hikaru a
Yeah,
few days ago.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, amazing.
So now I would just like to change the perspective of the podcast for some time. So once the COVID pandemic actually hit people, um, d- and there was like chess was on a halt, right? Nobody knew how to um, like everything stopped. No chess tournaments. More online chess was not even that popular at that time. Chess.com was like 10 times less successful as they are right now. So I just wanted to ask you that how do you think it actually impacted the community? And do you think it is going in the right path right now?
Yeah, it's amazing to see. I do think it's on a great trajectory right now. It sort of feels like we've got sort of grown-ups taking charge. I mean, obviously, chess has this rich history, but the combination of like young content creators, and Magnus is an amazing ambassador for the game, and obviously Queen's Gambit was a tremendous boon. um, but stuff like again, Levy Rosman, like if FIDE does something that they think is wrong,
Uh-huh.
that like he'll call them out, and like he's bigger than anyone. Like it's just this weird the way that power dynamics have switched. And FIDE does, they make a lot of mistakes, but generally they are trying to promote chess. I mean, I don't think they generally, I don't think, have like ill will. But anyway, I mean, there are still governing issues. Obviously, there's the question of Magnus playing the next world championship. But overall, I mean, chess is just such a beautiful, timeless game. And that's just such a trump card in terms of continuing to attract people. And yeah, I mean, I would love, obviously, the more women playing chess, the better. That needs to be a major initiative. And men in particular, since chess is mostly men, need to do everything they can to make sure that women are treated well in the chess world and given opportunities. But overall, I mean, it's on a good trajectory.
Yeah, so according to me, I think like the players are increasing, no doubt. But I just have this feeling that most of these people that are playing chess right now are just playing it for fun or mainly like not from a learning perspective of view. It's mostly for getting through lockdown. You get what I mean? So for me, I just think like there's a gap between actually studying chess and playing chess in the new viewers and the new players that are coming up. Because I'm not sure how many online players will actually go into offline chess. Or, so what's your perspective? Do you think that these players would actually take chess seriously and go over the board, or this is just like uh, high on the graph and it's just gonna go down after the COVID pandemic opens up?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to know. I do agree that tournament chess is a different beast. And here in the US, it's not, sometimes it's not the most welcoming atmosphere to play tournament chess. It can be a hectic schedule. There's a lot of sort of details to figure out. So I do always encourage people to at least try one tournament. But these things go in cycles no matter what. I mean, if you're going all the way back to the Fisher broom, there's going to be ebbs and flows. Um, in terms of the popularity of chess or of anything. But I do think chess is uniquely well suited to be presented online. The learning tools have gotten better and better. So I do think, of course, it's possible that chess peaked or hit a peak, but some people will stick around. And as chess enthusiasts, as you and I both are, all we can do is focus on what we love about chess and try to show that to people. And I think if enough people are doing that, then it's on a great, again, I think it's on a great trajectory. Like whether it maintains its peak or not, it's growing. And again, like with all the amazing people at Play Magnus and chess.com and all the great presenters, Sagar Shah is amazing. That it's it's in better shape than it's ever been, I would say.
Yeah, so what's your preference, online chess or offline chess? What do you like more?
I've been getting back into tournaments. I just played one about 2 weeks ago. I have two kids. My
Uh-huh.
wife works more than full time, so it can be challenging. And I know that's the challenge that a lot of adults deal with in terms of competing in tournaments. But there's something special about them to me. I mean, there's the heightened concentration that you feel, the increased sense of healthy competition. So also, I'm not a great blitz player. So that, and like everyone else, I sometimes deal with like blitz tilt and stuff. So I love the struggle of the tournaments. I mean, you kind of feel like you're the character in a novel, when you're playing in a
Yeah.
tournament. So so to me, that's special. Um, but but I don't think we should, like Levy would say, we shouldn't gatekeep. We shouldn't judge people. Like, just do whatever aspect of chess brings you joy, and you don't have to follow top level chess if you don't want to. You don't have to play tournaments if you don't want to. You don't have to crack a book if you don't want to. Just do what brings you joy. It's there's if you just want to play bug house, do they call it bug house in India too?
Yeah,
Siamese
yeah.
chess. Yeah, if you just want to play bug house, that's fine too. So yeah, but personally, I do like tournaments.
Yeah, but uh, how do you think, like, when can a person actually consider chess as a profession? Because you took a risk, but there must be people who are interested in chess but are scared of actually doing it full time. So when do you think chess could become a profession, and how hard is it to actually sustain by playing chess?
Yeah, I mean, so we're talking about like grandmasters here trying to make a living playing chess.
Yeah, even in grandmasters, I think like only uh the top 50 or like the top
Yeah, if
20
that.
actually get a decent, like a luxury style of living, as far as I know, and beneath that it's a little hard. So when do you think a person should actually start considering chess as a career?
Um, yeah, it's definitely a challenge, and if anything, as you say, it does seem like some people they cling a little too much to the competitive side of chess. I mean, it's got to be hard to reach number 150 in the world or something, which is absolutely amazing. It's an incredible accomplishment. And then to sort of have that slow realization that, and you said top 50, but I really feel like it might be like top 30 or something where you can make a good living. And it's really only top 10 where you're making a lot of money. Um, so it's got to be daunting. But if you're a great chess player and you work on your presentation skills, you can make a living in chess. Like, there's more opportunity. Like, you won't just play. You'll either have to chess stream or teach or make chessable courses or whatever it is. Um, you won't just play, but the opportunities are greater than ever to make a living surrounded by a game that you love. So I think that it's good to maintain that perspective. And if we're all kind of rowing the boat in the same direction. I think that the number of people for whom just competitive chess is viable will only grow. But you do have to be realistic right now about it, and I'm sure it's hard for these amazing players who've devoted so much. But there are plenty of opportunities to at least make a living.
Yeah, so in India, like there's so many youngsters, like
Yeah,
yeah, even who are smaller than me in age, they play really good chess. But the main issue in India is that 90% of the people who live in India are actually like villagers or farmers, and there's
right.
a yeah, poverty is like a big thing in India. So
Yeah,
so yeah, the main reason is lots of players are interested in playing tournaments and actually making a living out of it or gaining a title, but it's becoming very hard for them to actually sustain in the game because they're not getting sponsors and other things. But that has changed in the past 2 years, but it still needs a lot of time to actually be to actually, if for people to actually get opportunities, they would have to um, struggle very hard to actually get a sponsor behind them. So, what do you think are the steps that people can take if they want to actually um, approach someone or like you get what I mean? So this how should I frame this actually? Uh-huh. Basically, I mean, it's very hard to get sponsors while they're playing the game, right? So how do you think we can like actually gain attraction of these sponsors to actually come towards you and help you in the progress?
yeah, it's a good question. Yeah, and I didn't mean to, I didn't mean to just paint a rosy picture, because what you say is a very good point. That I know that there's a lot of poverty in India. There's a lot of poverty in many places, and it can be quite a challenge. I mean, the only to the extent I can give advice, it's I'm not sure how qualified I am, but you've got to try to differentiate yourself, and unfortunately you've got to be an advocate for yourself. And it's been I've observed chess players are generally introverts by nature, like more often than not, so that can be challenging. Also, the game is so demanding that, like, anytime if you're trying to promote yourself, that takes away, um, that can take away from actually doing the work to become a better chess player. So it's definitely a challenge. I mean, I guess I would have to advise, like, you know, you have to be realistic. If not you, whoever has to be realistic. Like, if you're Pragananda, like, then obviously go all in on chess. Like, uh, just pour every ounce of your energy into becoming the best chess player you can, because it seems realistic that he's on a trajectory where he'll be able to make a living in chess. If you're a good player, but not necessarily on that trajectory, then by all means pursue chess, if you love it. But you do have to think, uh, about not neglecting the other aspects of your life, academics, um, relationships, of course. Um, and B, you've got to think about how you present yourself. I mean, stuff like YouTube streaming and Twitch streaming, and all the content creation, writing, making chessable courses. It's all challenging. It's a crowded marketplace, but if you have that passion, if you feel like if what's differentiating you from everyone else is not your chess ability, then you've got to think of something else, and just whatever it is, like, you've got to put all your energy into it, to the extent possible, all of the time you have into it.
So you took the podcast route of actually sustaining in chess, and I just wanted to ask one thing that do you think podcast is becoming a niche topic for some people? Because because I'm saying like the Your podcast is really nice, but the new generation, the younger generation, after the introduction of these YouTube Shorts, TikTok, and all of these stuff, do you think podcast is actually becoming a niche topic? And because most of the people now just want the information in a second, like a 10-second video and done. So, what do you think? What's your demographic of your podcast right now? And what do you think would be some steps that would actually encourage them to listen to the podcast?
Yeah, I get what you're saying for sure. I do think there's a niche element. I mean, it is on demand radio, so there's always going to be an audience for people when they can't again, when they can't consume the instant hit video type of format. But generally, in terms of like hardcore podcast fans, there's going to be a lot of overlap with people who love books. And people have been talking about books dying for 30, 40 years now. And books, and there's, and books aren't going anywhere.
Yeah,
So I personally have no illusions that like podcasts are going to become bigger than YouTube. Like I do consider it somewhat niche, and it will always be niche, in my opinion. And I'm not trying to like someone who has a 10-second attention span, like my 90-minute interviews probably aren't for them. Like, and
yeah,
I'm okay with that. There's this marketing guru, Seth Godin, who's written some great books, and he talks about this concept. Everyone always talks about like what's your maximum addressable audience, like how many people you can reach. But he says that what you really want to do as a content creator in this new age is try to find the smallest viable audience. So what he means by that is you want the smallest number of people who love what you do, people who will like crash through a wall for you, because that's a lot easier to build than to be like, I'm going to be the next Levy Rosman. So, and as my podcast has evolved, you know I realize not everyone listens to every episode. So but what I want is like my I do some book review podcasts, and those aren't as popular as the other ones, but the people who love them really love them. And that's important to me, that some people are just like, geez, I don't want to hear guys talk about some chess book for an hour. And that's fine, because the other people are looking forward all month to that one podcast. So yeah, basically I can't change the nature of people. I'm very lucky to be able to do what I do at all. So I just try to put out the best product I can, and for people for whom it's enjoyable, they'll enjoy it. And I know, and I'm fine that that's not going to be everyone.
uh-huh. And what are your like the plans for future? What are your plans? Is there like some sneak peek you can give us who's coming next on your podcast or something? And
Well,
yeah,
yeah, I don't know when this comes out. I mean, I'm interviewing Grandmaster Simon Williams, Ginger GM. That
uh-huh.
that interview is taking place this week, and it'll be out in 2 weeks. I don't have anyone like super duper high profile scheduled right now. I've been in touch with Grandmaster Michael Adams. I'm a huge fan. I love like that's the kind of player I love to interview, because um, obviously he's a legend. Um, but he's also like, he's not been a world champion. Like he's kind of like just that notch below. And I feel like those people have great perspective. And so he's got a book coming out. I'm excited to interview him. Obviously, I'm hoping to interview Magnus sometime. But there's nothing scheduled or anything. And in term other than that, I'm thinking, Dewal, about doing a bit more sort of spotlight type interviews, like feature a few streamers in one interview or something like that. Like just try to like I'm lucky enough to have a decent sized platform, and I like to interview the higher profile people when I can. But I also like, if there's talented people that are up and coming, I want to try to spotlight them when I can. And sometimes it might be easier to do that with like more than one guest per episode. So that's something I'm thinking about doing, but nothing like crazy planned right now.
One of the last questions that I want to ask you, what would you be doing if you were not a chess player? Like, I mean, you already answered
Yeah.
that for poker, but is there like something else that you would actually stuck with?
Um, yeah. I mean, I didn't want to go to law school. I've always the one thing that I that I always felt I was pretty decent at, and that I never pursued. Like things just didn't. I didn't really have a plan in college, and things didn't like work the way I wanted. But I always really enjoyed writing, and I wish I had I wish I had tried that a little more. Maybe like a feature writer, nonfiction writer, something along those lines. And I'm doing a bit of writing about the podcast right now, and it's reminded me how much I enjoy it. I've published a couple blog posts on on Chess and chess.com about the podcast recently. I've been trying to write a book. It's hard because it's like my lowest priority in terms of how I spend my time, which means it often gets like kicked to the side. But in a perfect world, if I could do everything over again and be like directed, that's something that I knew I enjoyed from a young age. And for some reason, and I had people tell me I was, uh, reasonably gifted at it. And I never made like the way we have with chess, where you just like zero in on something and really push your energy into it. I never did that with writing. So in an alternate universe, that's something I wouldn't mind doing, and certainly to any other fellow young people watching, I definitely, when you feel that spark intellectually in something that you're pursuing, you really want to put as much energy into it as you can.
Yeah.
Again, like what you're doing is amazing, and yeah, I'm just happy to pop in and talk chess with you, and just want to say
Uh-huh.
like major shout out to India. I was saying to Dewal before we started recording, like it, you guys are taking over the elite chess world. It's incredible to see. And again, I can't say enough kind words about Sagar Shah. I don't know how he
Uh-huh.
and his wife Amruta, I don't know how they uh are able to be in so many places and do so many things, and his questions are always amazing. So anyway, it's great to see chess doing well in India. I do hope that overall, as you know, the problems you alluded to, I hope that like both in a chess sense and in like a greater sense, that India can continue to grow, because it's obviously great country with great history and great chess history.
Yeah. So who do you think will actually become the world champion from India in in the top 10 right now? Which player do you think actually is the most closest to becoming the world champion?
Yeah, I haven't looked at is that how you say his name? Iragasu? How do you say the young man's name who's crushing the challengers field in Tata Steel right now? Do you know how to say it?
Arjun?
Aryan or
Arjun?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. He's
Um
been playing really nice in the Tata
I've
Steel, yeah.
yeah, I've seen a lot of people like praising his play on Twitter, but I haven't looked through the games yet. So I mean, obviously Nihal Sarin and Pragananda are the main ones that come to mind for me. But it's it's not just about like the quality as the quantity. It just feels like, you know, the law of averages says if there's like 12 young phenoms from India, like one of them is gonna break through. I don't really know which one it's gonna be. But and the other thing is they'll push each other, like it can become like a self-perpetuating cycle, because they they'll be driven by each other. So yeah,
Yeah.
it'll be interesting to see. And obviously Faruja and people like that might have something to say about it too. But yeah, I mean, it's a
Yeah.
whole new world.
Yeah, we have the Indian Chess League coming up, so all of these people are going to be playing against each other, and one is going to
Oh
be,
wow,
yeah, and one of them is going to be coming out on the top. So basically,
awesome.
yeah, so that might be a way to actually differentiate them, as you said, for
And is that going
sponsor
to be
stuff. Yeah.
online, or is that going to be online, or over the board?
I think it's online, but this is one of the biggest events that has ever happened in India in the chess history. I think Hikaru and all of these people are playing this time.
Wow,
Yeah, so it's basically a league with uh, six people, two international players, two juniors, and two normal players. And there would be six
wow.
teams. They compete against each other, and yeah, it's a huge prize pool, and it's gonna attract a lot of people in India.
That's great. Yeah. So, I mean, in terms of like you know, hopefully you'll be covering that, like, you know,
Maybe,
stuff
yeah.
like that is really, yeah, I know obviously you're a student, your time is limited, but stuff like that, obviously the more people we can get into it, the better for all of us long term.
Yeah, yeah. So thanks for joining me, and I appreciate all of the time that you gave me. I got to learn a lot from you today. I would hopefully implement it on my career, and hopefully I become successful.
Yep, one day at a time, just pursue what you love, and yeah, good luck to all,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
thanks
Thanks,
for
thanks,
watching and
thanks.
listening, everyone.
Yeah.
Okay, take care.